Okay, so here we are, the last study session. You've made it through the march to the ACT, and exactly a week from today, you'll be taking the ACT. So this study session is going to cover the science portion, the last and the best portion of the test. So get ready for charts and graphs and research summaries and viewpoints and opposing viewpoints and all kinds of scientific stuff. But wait, the last year, you've been going through COVID-19, one of the biggest science experiments of all time. You've got this portion of the test. So good luck, pay attention, and remember, a week from today is the test. Okay, so here's the deal. Next Wednesday, the entire school is just going to be for juniors. Everybody else is not allowed. Only juniors are allowed here for the state mandate ACT test. So whether you are in person, Southmoore High School, a junior who takes some classes here and some at home, or all your classes are more virtual, every single junior at Southmoore High School to return back for junior day for the state mandate ACT test. 9th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, they're not allowed in the building. It's just for juniors, so we can space you out so you can focus on the ACT during our time, not on a Saturday during your time. So we expect everybody, call your friends, get everybody here on Wednesday, April 7th to take the ACT test. Wait, hold up, stop what you're doing, hold up real quick. We've got a correction. If you were paying attention on that last slide, I said juniors. You've got to be here on April the 7th. And then I went on and said 9th, 11th, and 12th graders will not be here. Yeah, after 9 years of being the sophomore principal, I made a mistake. Yes, I know that juniors are 11th grade. So let me correct myself. Next week, 9th, 10th, and 12th graders won't be here. It'll just be juniors. And hey, juniors, on the ACT, you don't have to be perfect. Expect mistakes. Don't dwell on it. Keep moving on to the next opportunity, the next question. So I've had lots of great questions asked of me. Do I have to drive here, or is there still going to be buses allowed? Yes, buses are going to run on the normal times, the normal stops. So make sure you're at your bus stop in the morning, and then they will return back at 3:11 after school to return you back. So the test is supposed to be done about 12:40ish. So if you take the bus, you're going to hang around Southmoore High School until 3:11, or if somebody wants to come pick you up, or if you want to walk home. So the buses will run on normal routes. Plan to be here, no excuses. Walk, ride, run, or take the bus. So if all goes right, we'll have all 476 juniors arriving back at Southmoore High School. And that's why we need the entire building. We're going to space you guys out about 10 per room so that you have plenty of elbow room, plenty of time in a safe environment to take the ACT with a low stress environment. If you do not have a school-issued device, we're going to put you guys in a separate computer lab. So whenever you guys arrive to Southmoore High School, and I would suggest getting here early, we're going to have your room assignments on the front office and the counseling center. If you have any questions when you arrive here, find Mr. Oliver. Students, the next couple of slides are going to help you make sure that your laptop is ready to go for the test. So take a moment, read through the following items that's going to help you make sure that your laptop has all the updates and is ready to go on the test. Remember, if you don't do this and your laptop struggles trying to download something during the test, that time you're going to miss is going to be vital time on the ACT. So go ahead and do this in advance so that you're ready to go on ACT day. When we gave the ACT to the seniors about a month ago, one of the biggest mistakes they made is they did not update their computers with the latest Windows. So go ahead and start doing that if you've not done so already. Update this nightly so that your computer is tip-top and ready to go, and there are no delays while you're taking the ACT. Once again, once the ACT starts, if your computer has a little bit of a lag or if it doesn't have the newest updates, you're the one that's going to be in jeopardy because you're going to be cheated out some time. So go ahead and update that. Maximize your time to do well in the ACT. Okay, starting this weekend, students, you need to get your body ready to go for the ACT. And part of that is making sure you get yourself into a routine. That routine should include getting a good night's sleep every single night. A lot of students make the mistake of waiting the night before the test, trying to go to sleep early and get a good night's sleep. Your body's not used to that, and in fact, you actually feel sluggish and tired throughout the entire time of the test. So starting right now, get yourself in a routine of going to sleep early, making sure that your body is charged up for the test, as well as making sure that you guys are eating proper meals, getting lots of food and beverages, okay? Also, I want you to charge your laptop up every single night. Just close the lid, charge it up on a nightly basis. That makes sure you get in a routine of making sure that your laptop is getting all the latest downloads as well as fully charged on a nightly basis. So the next morning, you and your laptop are ready to go. Students, if you have a Mac computer or any Apple product, it will not allow you to take the ACT on that item. If you'll email me as soon as possible or notify us when you arrive here, we can get you a separate computer, either a laptop or take you into one of our computer rooms. Once again, any Mac product or Apple product is not compatible. Call of Duty, high score.
Listen up, gamers. If you have the Xbox Game Bar downloaded on your laptop, you need to remove that or it will kick you off your ACT test. You probably won't get that time back if you do get kicked off, so make sure that you get that uninstalled on your computer.
So if you want to go back and review any of our previous sessions, or if you've missed our sessions, go to Southmoore High School's website. You can click on March to the ACT Test Strategies, and there you'll see separate videos from each week of our presentations. You can watch them over and over again to make sure that you're equipped for the ACT. Okay, so by now all of you know that you've got a free sample test to take for the ACT. So this is just a sample test to give you a chance to be exposed to a variety of different questions and concepts that are going to be on the real ACT test on April 7th. If you haven't done so already, you're encouraged to take advantage of this free access by logging into the student.cambridgeed.com. Put your PIN number, which is your school ID or your school cafeteria number, put that in there as your PIN and begin practicing. Once again, this is a paced test where I'm only opening up a section of the test at a time to give you a chance to focus on just one section at a time. Once you get through with that section, I'll be notified. I'll open up the next section for the following week. So good luck and go ahead and spend a little time over spring break. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and take the first two sections of the ACT. And then when we come back from spring break, if you have any questions, great opportunity to ask your classroom teachers. I took the practice ACT and I saw a couple of concepts that I was unfamiliar with. Can you help me with these? Ask those questions of those teachers. They'll be glad to help you out. At midnight tonight, I'm going to close down the free Cambridge ACT test. That's a sample test for you to go ahead and do on your own time. If you've not done so already, log in, start taking that portion of the time, because once that window is closed, they say it takes about 2 to 3 business days for us to get results. Go ahead and log back in daily. Check to see if your library, if your test results are back, and if so, it's going to tell you exactly what the correct answer is so that you can compare and get an idea. Is there any last-minute adjustments, any last-minute content studying you need to do to score your highest? We've got something very exciting for you. We want to honor your academic excellence. So we've created an area in front of the lecture center. It's going to be named Honors Hall. What we want to do there is we want to honor those individuals who scored a 30 or above on the ACT. We want to put up a big banner in your honor so every other student can see your excellence. You're also going to get a medallion, a special medallion given just to those who score above a 30 to wear at graduation. So we want to honor and celebrate your excellence. So do your best and look forward to seeing your name in Honors Hall. All right, so let's leave you with this last bit of information. For the majority of you, this is going to be the very first time you've taken the ACT, and you're probably going to be nervous. That's okay. That means you're alive, and it's completely normal. Think about the first time you went to school by yourself. Think about the first time you were behind the wheel of an automobile driving for yourself. All those are nerve-wracking experiences, and the longer you live through life, the more you're going to get a chance to experience those things, and you can get through it. Makes you stronger. Okay? Now, just like Beyonce, when life gives you lemons, go ahead and make lemonade. And come to think of it, another one of her songs had something about a ring and putting a ring on it. So let's leave you with this. If you want to do well on the ACT, just study for it. If you want to do well on the ACT, just study for it. If you want to do well, just study for it. Good luck. You've got this.
Hello, and welcome to our fourth installment on our March to the ACT. In this segment, we'll be learning about the fourth ACT test, which is entitled Science Reasoning. Before we start talking about the science test itself, let's talk about some things that we can do to get ready for the test. Of course, everybody will tell you to go to bed early and get a good, nice rest. But another thing you can do is get ready for the test the night before. Doing some things like setting out your admissions ticket, making sure you have your photo ID and your calculator and pencils set out and ready to go. This way, you're not rushing, scrambling, or trying to find them all that morning when you get up. Take yourself a shower in the morning. Get yourself awake so you're ready for this test. Arrive early to the test site, especially if it's a school that you're not familiar with, or if you're not certain what room you're going to be testing in, you might arrive early so that you have plenty of time to find your room and get there and get settled in. You don't want to be rushing into the room at the last minute. This can kind of throw you off your game. Dress comfortably and dress in layers. Wear a t-shirt with a sweatshirt and or a jacket. You never know how hot or cold the room is going to be, and this way you can always take off your jacket if you get a little bit warm. But if you don't have a jacket, it's kind of hard to put one on. You need to bring 2 or 3 pencils with you. These should be the standard wooden pencils with a number 2 lead. Do not use mechanical pencils. The lead in a mechanical pencil is different than number 2 lead, and it can actually affect the scoring of your ACT. Your calculator. You have to find out if your calculator is approved, but make sure you replace the batteries the night before the test. Some people tell you to bring replacement batteries with you, which would be another option. But now you're going to be wasting time replacing the batteries during the math test. So just replace the batteries the night before and you're good to go. Okay, now let's talk about food. The ACT is a marathon of a test lasting almost 4 hours. This is going to take a lot of energy to get through that morning. Just like your body needs energy when it's exercising, your brain needs energy to take this test. You should eat a good breakfast the morning of the test. We don't recommend that you go eat a huge grand slam breakfast, but you do want to eat a solid breakfast. By the way, guys, a couple of Pop-Tarts is not a healthy breakfast. We'd like to remind you that the ACT does not allow any food or drink at your seat during the ACT test. There's several reasons for this, but just know that you will not be allowed to have any type of food or drink at your desk or even under your desk during the test. However, we do recommend that you eat something during the break. There will be a break between the second and third test. The break should last about 15 minutes. During that time, you can go to the bathroom and eat a snack. Some schools will provide a snack for the test takers. However, you're more than welcome to bring your own snack. Maybe have a small lunch bag or maybe a backpack that you could bring, and you could have a snack of your choice, maybe some chips or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever you prefer, and a drink, be it water or Gatorade, in that bag. Again, you probably won't be allowed to have this at your desk, but most test administrators will have you set this bag at the front of the room or near the door, and then you can eat it during the break. Another idea is to have some pre-unwrapped candies that you can put into your sweatshirt or coat pocket. You want these to be pre-unwrapped so you're not trying to unwrap them during a test. But maybe during the middle of the math test, if you start to feel yourself getting tired, you can pop a peppermint or a Jolly Rancher or something in your mouth, as long again as it's pre-unwrapped, and it's really easy for you to fish out of your pocket and pop it in your mouth. Let's go ahead and start talking about the ACT science test. The science portion of the ACT is 35 minutes, and you have 40 questions. So yes, you will have less than 1 minute per question. The science portion of the ACT is divided into 6 or 7 passages. A passage is a group or cluster of questions. This group or cluster will have charts, graphs, and some reading, and all the questions in that passage refer to that charts, graph, and reading. The entire test is multiple choice. There will be 4 multiple choice answers per question. Only one answer is correct. There is no penalty for a wrong answer, so make sure that you answer every question. Bubble in all the blank questions before the time is up. Your teacher, your instructor, should give you a 5-minute warning. And at that time, you can quickly bubble in anything that you haven't gotten to. And then you can go back and continue working until time is called. The ACT science test emphasizes science reasoning or logic. It is not going to ask you to recall specific science content. What that means is they want to see if you can interpret and understand some basic science concepts and read charts and graphs. They're not going to be asking you specific science knowledge, such as they will not ask you what the formula is for photosynthesis, nor would they expect you to know the location of the vastus lateralis muscle. Instead, it's all about interpreting, analyzing, and evaluating problems. The test technically covers topics in biology, chemistry, physics, and earth science. But if you haven't taken these subjects, it's not going to matter. Yes, if you have taken these subjects, you will have some background that may help you on the test, but just because you haven't taken one of these subjects shouldn't really hurt you on the test, as long as you just use your basic logic skills. The ACT science test does have some things that they assume that you will know heading into the test. One of those items is the concept of density. Density is how tightly packed the molecules are in a particular substance. A good example of this is a lead ball versus a styrofoam ball. A lead ball that's, say, 1 inch in diameter is going to weigh more and be heavier than a styrofoam ball that is also 1 inch in diameter. That's because a lead ball, the molecules of lead are more tightly packed together. This makes that ball heavier and harder. In this case, we can say a lead ball is denser than a styrofoam ball. They also expect you to understand what the pH scale is. They expect you to understand that it goes from 0 to 14, that any liquid that has a pH from 0 to 7 is considered an acid. Anything with a pH exactly at 7 is neutral. And that water-based liquids that have a pH from 7 to 14 would be considered a base. The ACT assumes that you understand global warming, that you understand how greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide are building up in the atmosphere, thus causing sunlight and heat from the sun to be trapped in the earth, thus causing the greenhouse effect. Another item that the ACT expects you to understand is the law of conservation of mass. This is where we get the phrase that energy and matter cannot be created nor destroyed. If you do not understand one of these simple concepts, you might go talk to one of your science teachers about it. When you first get to a passage, don't read any of the paragraphs. If you want to skim at them and just kind of look and see what they're talking about, that's fine. But your best is just go straight to the questions. The questions are going to have key words. You can underline, circle the key words in the questions. Remember, you can write in the ACT book. Then you can go back to the passages or to the charts or graphs and look for those key words. And there you should find your answers fairly quickly. Remind you that your first intuition about an answer is probably correct, and go with it. Trust yourself. The ACT intentionally has weird topics. They'll have topics about nuclear fusion. They'll have topics about light bulb filaments. No one understands any of this stuff, and you don't have to either. They intentionally put weird topics in there. It's not about you knowing that subject. It's about analyzing the chart and graph that goes with it. You don't even have to understand the units of measure. All you have to do is be able to pick out the correct number. We remind you again to answer every question. But when you are guessing, always guess the same letter. If you are purely guessing and you're just running down and guessing an answer, put the same letter down. B, 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 or C, 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 C. Don't zigzag. You'll have a better shot at lucking into 2 or 3 correct answers by guessing the same letter. If you zigzag, you're more likely to miss them all. Pay close attention to the scales and axes. The ACT test will often have graphs that have 2, 3, or even 4 graphs shown on the same chart. They could have both temperature and pressure on the same chart. So if the question is asking about temperature, make sure that you find the temperature scale. They will often direct you to a specific table or figure. The question might state, according to figure 1. Well, right there, the question is telling you that the answer is going to be found in figure 1. Find figure 1. Put your finger on figure 1. This will help you to remember where to find your answer. The questions also ask you to identify patterns. What is happening to this population of deer? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? You should be able to tell that by the direction of the slopes. This screen here just shows you how in one question they have both a figure 1 and a table 1. Pay attention to your question. If your question asks about figure 1, put your finger on figure 1. In this example, we're looking at a chart that contains several different factors. It shows pressure, temperature, and depth. The question is asking us, according to figure 1, which we see on the left side of the screen, a fascist G rock. So we now know that this question is only asking about fascist G rock. So you could put your finger on fascist G, knowing that that's all we need to focus on. All those other fascists, A and B and C and D and E, we can ignore. Now it's asking, under what conditions will fascist G rock form? They list pressure and temperature. We start with pressure. It's the first thing they show. The pressure scale is on the left-hand side, and it goes from 0 to 14, with 14 at the bottom and 0 at top. Fascist G is between 10 and 14. So when we go back to question 2 and we look at pressure, we'll notice that only one answer, J, has a pressure between 10 and 14. It has a pressure of 11. So immediately that eliminates F, G, and H as possible answers. Boom, J is your answer. We don't even need to look at temperature. Move on. The ACT expects you to be able to extrapolate. Extrapolate means to predict something that might be off the edge of the screen. In this example here, it's asking about, by year 7, how many captures per 1,000 hours would the scientists expect for the insectivores? Well, the insectivores graph is the line with the diamonds. So you can put your finger on that graph line and trace it over. By year 6, it is leveled off at just above 40. You can expect that line to continue in a relatively level or straight manner all the way through year 7. So the answer is probably going to be around 40. And since the answer choices, there's only one answer near 40, that's letter C. So letter C is probably your answer. In this example here, we are looking to find the intermediate. The intermediate is a number between two other numbers. In this sample, the question asks if a trial had been done with 0.06 moles of NaCl. Okay, a lot of kids will get confused with the 0.060 moles. First off, don't worry about what a mole is, and treat that as simply the number 60. Now, when we look at our table 2, they have 0, 0.025, 0.050, 0.075, 0.100. Treat those as whole numbers: 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. 0.060, we count that as 60. Well, where does 60 fall? Well, 60 falls between 50 and 75. You could make a pencil mark between 60 and 75 real fast. Now, at 0.050 or 50, it has a temperature of 34. 0.075 or 75 has a temperature of 50. So we can assume that our 0.060 is going to have an answer between 34 and 50. We don't need to calculate the exact amount. We go look at our answer choices. We have 34, 42, 50, and 62. But again, we know that our answer has to be between 34 and 50. The only answer choice that is between 34 and 50 is G, 42. Boom, there's your answer. On to the next question. Here's another thing they throw at you. It's called a core sample. A core sample is where a scientist will take a core out of the earth or out of a glacier to see the mineral or ice properties. A good way to think of a core sample is if you were to get a icy or a slushy and were to take your straw and shove it straight down into the icy and then put your finger over the end of the straw and pull it out. You now have a core sample of your icy. Core samples start at the top at 0 because 0 is the ground level. In this core sample that they're showing us on this screen, it goes down to 344 centimeters. That's the depth. Now, core samples can be tough for some of us to read because they are vertical, and that's kind of odd for us to look at. Well, let's make it easy. If you will turn your head or your paper sideways, now that 0 is in the bottom left corner, and that 344 is on the bottom right, and that looks a little bit more normal for a graph or chart, and it makes it easier for us to read it. On the ACT science test, they have 3 types of passages. Again, a passage is a group or set of questions. The 3 different passage types are called charts and graphs, research summaries, and opposing viewpoints. On any given ACT test, you'll have 2 or 3 chart and graph passages, 2 or 3 research summaries, and you'll always have 1 opposing viewpoint. You do not know the order that these will be in as they shuffle these up from test to test. However, know that the questions inside of each passage increase in difficulty. So, if the first passage is a research summary, and there are 6 questions, then question 1 is going to be the easiest question of the group, supposedly, and question 6, in theory, should be the most difficult. Then, when you get to passage 2, and it has questions 7 through 13, question 7 should again be an easy question, and question 13 should be the hardest one of that set. That's another test strategy that you can take, is that for every passage, try your best to do the first 4 questions, which should always be, the first question should be the easiest and the 4th one should be getting a little bit more difficult. And then leave the last 2 questions for later, or know that the last 2 questions are going to be more difficult and kind of pass on them a little bit. Try them if you can, but don't spend a lot of time on them. We'd rather get the first 4 questions from each passage correct, and that's going to boost our score over struggling with those last 2 questions of each set. Okay, now let's talk specifically about the chart and graph passages. Each ACT will have 2 or 3 chart and graph passages. Each of these passages will have 5 questions. They will always have several tables, charts, graphs, or illustrations. And they usually have the least amount of reading in little paragraphs that you have to deal with. This is where we'll find questions that will talk about finding an intermediate or extrapolating data. Most people consider the chart and graph passages as a group to be the easiest. So one test strategy is to find the chart and graph passages first and do their questions first. And that way you get yourself off on a good foot and you can get the highest score in these generally. You'd hate to leave these for the end when you're running out of time. The next couple of slides is a chart and graph from an actual ACT. You can pause this recording at this time and practice these. Next, let's talk about research summary passages. Again, there will be 2 to 3 passages or sets per ACT test. They will have 6 questions per passage. Almost always they will have some charts, graphs, and other figures. Now, research summaries will describe 2 or 3 experiments. They will have more reading, more paragraphs than the charts and graphs do. But again, you don't need to read these passages unless you're needing to figure out the answer to something. As part of these questions, they will expect you to be able to tell the difference between the experiments, what is happening in these experiments as opposed to the other experiment. They'll also expect you to understand the difference between the independent versus dependent variable and know what a control or a constant is. The next several slides are a sample from an ACT test of the research summary type questions. Please pause this recording and attempt these at this time. The final type of questions are called opposing viewpoints. They will have 7 questions. Rarely do they have figures. Most of the time it is 2 large paragraphs of reading where you're going to read one scientist's opinion on a certain theory or topic, followed by a second scientist's opinion about a theory or a certain topic. First off, do not judge the content of the theories. You will not be asked to determine which theory is correct. Leave your personal opinions at home about these as well. You may not believe in the topic that one or the other scientist is stating, but that's not the point of the ACT. All you're here for is to find the answer and bubble it in. Because there is a great deal more reading, these usually take a little bit longer. We recommend that if you have trouble finishing the complete science portion of the ACT in the time allotted, save this passage for the end, because it usually takes the most time and finding the answers can be a little bit harder. So save it for the end and get done what you can with it. The next several screens have sample questions about opposing viewpoints. You can pause this recording at this time and practice these as well. Finally, let's talk about how the ACT is scored. When you receive your ACT score, it will be a number from 1 to 36. That corresponds to a percentile that compares how you did on the test compared to the general population of ACT test takers across the nation. A score of 21 is considered average. And for most of us, that's what we're shooting for. That'd be the same as getting a high C or a low B in most classes. An ACT score of 24 means you're in the top 25%. That'd be the same as getting a high B. A 28, now we're talking the A category. With a 30 or better, now we're talking a 95% in most of your classes. Okay, so how do we get to a certain score? If you look at this chart, it shows you how many correct answers you must get in order to achieve a certain score on the ACT. As we said on the previous slide, a 21 is considered the average score. According to this chart, you must get 23 or 24 answers correct in order to get a 21. If you were to get 23 out of 40 correct, that's only 57%. Now, if I got a 57% in most of my classes, I'd consider that bad. But on the ACT, getting 57% of the answers correct is going to get you a 21, which is an average score. That's good. Now, yes, if you are shooting for a higher score, like say a 24, then you're going to have to get 29 answers correct. But the bottom line is you do not have to make 100 on the science portion. There are several different strategies that you can use to try to get 23, 26 answers correct, and you're going to have a very good 21, 23 score on the ACT. The ACT in science is not impossible. Hopefully you learned something from this video, and good luck to you on your ACT.